Hey there, focused learners. Welcome to this explainer. Look, if you're gearing up for the English Master Cadre examination, you know exactly how intimidating that syllabus can feel, right? It's literally this massive ocean of literature, critical theory, and, well, a whole bunch of linguistic jargon. But hey, take a deep breath, because today, we're taking that overwhelming sea of info and turning it into your ultimate strategic blueprint for absolutely crushing this test. For the next few minutes, think of me as your personal expert mentor. We're going to dig right into the hard data from past exams to figure out exactly what you need to know, where you should be spending your precious study time, and, most importantly, how to outsmart the test itself. So grab your notebooks, because this is the high-yield review you've been waiting for. All right, here's our roadmap for today. We'll hit 1. Decoding the Master Cadre. 2. Essential figures of speech. 3. Advanced literary concepts. 4. British literature timeline. And finally, 5. Winning exam strategy. Don't worry, we're going to cover all your high-stakes concern areas efficiently. Let's do this. Section 1. Decoding the Master Cadre. Okay, let's dive into this and analyze this vast syllabus to find our absolute focus areas. 150. That number right there, that represents the stakes. You are prepping for a rigorous, highly structured 150-question test. Every single question is basically a stepping stone to your success. But, and here's the absolute secret to this whole thing, not all topics are treated equally across those 150 questions. No way. You have to be incredibly strategic about where you invest your mental energy. And here is your golden ticket. Based on past exams, British literature takes up a staggering 55 to 60% of the paper. It is the absolute core pillar. I mean, if you don't have British lit nailed down, you're leaving more than half your score to chance. Then we've got Indian literature in English sitting at around 15%, literary terms and genres taking up about 10 to 12%, and finally, linguistics and phonetics at 8 to 10%. So, what does this all mean for you? It tells you exactly how to build your study plan. You tackle the heavy hitters first, absolutely, but you cannot ignore those smaller percentages. Why? Because those are almost always the tiebreakers.
Section 2, Essential Figures of Speech. Let's move to and see how this builds from our broad syllabus map down into the specific, high-yield tools found in that literature terms section.
And this brilliantly illustrates one of the most fundamental traps examiners love to set, mixing up a simile with a metaphor. A simile compares two completely unlike things by literally using the words like or as. For example, her cheeks were like roses. Cheeks and roses, totally different things, but tied together with like. Now, a metaphor, that's a direct comparison of dissimilar things without like or as. It boldly states that one thing is another. He is the star of the family. He isn't like a star, he is the star. Nailing this distinction early on is practically a free point on the exam.
Now, think about the phrase, "the old man passed away." It's a perfect everyday example of a euphemism. A euphemism is simply a figure of speech where you swap out a blunt, harsh, or kind of ugly reality for a mild, indirect, or pleasant term. We do it all the time. Instead of saying someone died, which can sound incredibly harsh, right? We soften the blow. We say they passed away. On the exam, they're going to throw lines at you and ask you to spot the device. So whenever you see an unpleasant fact all dressed up in a pleasant little package, boom, you're looking at a euphemism.
Section 3, Advanced Literary Concepts. Now we're ramping up the complexity just a bit to look at the advanced terms that really separate the top-ranking aspirants from the rest of the pack. Listen, if you're taking an English literature exam, there's no escaping iambic pentameter. It's an absolute classic. It's a poetic line made up of exactly 10 syllables divided into 5 parts or feet. And the rhythm? It's an unstressed beat followed by a stress beat. Basically, think of a human heartbeat. Da, dum, da, dum, da, dum, da, dum, da, dum. 5 pairs, 10 beats. Shakespeare used this structure all the time, and examiners love to give you a line of poetry and ask you to identify its meter. So locking down this 10-syllable 5-part structure is an absolute must.
Okay, picture this. Eerie, crumbling castles, dark, stormy nights, and a creeping sense of psychological terror. You know the vibe, right? That is the absolute essence of a Gothic novel. But here's the thing. The Master Cadre exam often tests the trivia behind the term. For instance, did you know the word Gothic originally referred to the Goths, an ancient Germanic tribe? It later morphed into a term for a Gothic romance known for its mystery and horror. Tying those historical and thematic roots together is exactly the kind of deep knowledge the examiners are hunting for.
Section 4. British Literature Timeline. Let's map out that massive historical landscape that, remember, makes up over half of your exam questions.
Contextualizing these eras is so crucial because, well, literature doesn't just pop out of nowhere, it happens alongside history. Let's start with the Old English, or Anglo-Saxon period, from 450 to 1066. This era was completely dominated by prominent tribes, the Angles, the Saxons, and the Jutes. Think epic, gritty poems like Beowulf. Then boom, 1066 hits. The Norman conquest changes everything, bringing in the Anglo-Norman period. Fast forward a bit to 1558 to 1603, and we hit the absolute jackpot. The Elizabethan Age. This is the golden age of British literature, and you better believe it's heavily tested because it gave us absolute giants like Christopher Marlowe and, of course, William Shakespeare. You really need to have these dates and the major cultural shifts they represent locked in.
Now, what's really interesting here is how famous opening lines highlight a massive trend in recent papers. Examiners don't just want to know if you can simply match Jane Austen to the title Pride and Prejudice. That's too easy. They are testing your actual textual familiarity. They will literally drop a legendary opening line like, "It is a truth universally acknowledged," or maybe a closing line, and ask you exactly where it's from or who said it. Relying on simple online plot summaries just isn't going to cut it anymore. You actually have to spend time with the original poetry and the first chapters of these canonical works.
Section 5. Winning Exam Strategy. So the crucial point is synthesizing all these previous sections into an actionable, pragmatic game plan for test day.
All right, let's get into the high-energy rundown of your non-negotiable strategies, pulled straight from past paper analysis. Number 1, like we just talked about, move way beyond basic summaries. You've got to memorize those minor characters and key quotes. Number 2, don't just memorize textbook definitions for literary devices, master them by looking at exact, real-world poetic lines. 3, get super organized and compile a dedicated literary awards list. You need to know exactly who won the Sahitya Academy, the Booker, and the Nobel, and for which specific book. 4, learn author pseudonyms. The examiners love testing trivia, like the fact that George Eliot was actually Marianne Evans. And finally, and seriously listen to me on this, do not skip the 44 phonemes in linguistics. So many students ignore this section, but mastering it is a massive, highly scoring rank booster.
So I have to ask, are you equipped and ready to conquer the 150 questions of the Master Cadre? Yes, it's a huge challenge, but by structuring your study plan around the actual mathematical weightage of the paper, mastering those tricky literary devices, memorizing the historical timelines, and actually attacking the linguistics section, you are no longer studying blind. You finally have the blueprint. It is an immense syllabus, absolutely, but taking it one strategic piece at a time makes it entirely conquerable. Take these strategies, dive back into your books, and go secure your success. Keep learning, keep focusing, and you are going to do great.